Is that a wait or we're on? Oh, I'd like to call to order a special meeting of the Avalon City Council for Wednesday, October 31st, Halloween. And may we please have the roll call?
Councilmember Albers?
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cassidy? Here. Mayor Marshall?
Here.
And I'd like to read into the record that Councilmember Olson will be absent.
Okay. And I will just make a mention about oral communication just because there are people in the audience, but I know you're here for other things. If you would like to speak on any item not on the agenda, you may do so at this time. Okay. General business.
Okay, we all know why we're here today. I really appreciate the council coming at last minute. As you can tell, the county had already reserved this room for the county election training. And so I just want it noted that if we need to continue past 15 minutes, which we're entitled to do, obviously, we're going to move this into our conference room, which will still be open to any public that wants to attend.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Bob Greenlaw, Director of Public Works. I previously had mentioned last council meeting that we were working on repairs to some damage that occurred from the 1015 incident of the surge that impacted South Beach. So the erosion of South Beach deteriorated again this weekend with the high tides. As I reported previously at the City Council, the incident started with a 1015 surge, which not only undermined the seawall at the middle of South Beach, but also damaged the wall. This weekend, a significant sinkhole and further evidence of undermining and a wall deterioration occurred. Then around noon yesterday, the seawall further deteriorated near the southern stairway. And what you're seeing is that picture and the further damage, what we saw yesterday there. So you see to the left that the seawall now has buckled, and it has, since the stairway is putting pressure on it there on the left side as I'm looking at the picture, and the weight of the seawall is also pulling it down on the right side, and there's no rebar in this wall. It just buckled up right there where there was a small 6-inch drain actually penetrating the wall, so there was a weak spot in the wall. And when I looked at this and been working on this since the 1015 surge, I did see evidence of cracking, and that cracking has just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and so finally it gave a failure yesterday, you know, with the multiple high tides that we've had. It's just been in there and washed further erosion, further material out from under the beach, because it was, when I reported previously, about 7 feet back under the wall. Now it's all the way back here, about 12 feet back, that we see the erosion occurring. And it's about 1.5 foot space under, a void space under the wall. And it is approximately about 100 feet of the wall from where you see the cones there at the top of the picture all the way to the other side of the stairway, about another 15, 20 feet past the stairway. So the repair that we had made previously, you see that it is holding up, but it's undermined. And that's been the problem, I think, with everybody who's attempted to repair here, is that we can't get deep enough. And we can't get deep enough due to the tides without significant effort, you know, so that's a major project, because usually what we go in, we try to make a repair and we try to get below that tide line. And everybody I see has been trying to accomplish getting 2 or 3 feet below the footing, but sometimes it doesn't erode all that away, so you would be excavating a major portion of the beach even to get to that repair. So what you'll hear today is we actually think we're going to go in there and make this repair that will help stabilize this for good. So that's what you see with a sinkhole. You can see a better look at the wall and the failure there.
And so, Bob, I'm sorry, did you say there's no rebar in the wall or no rebar in the cap, or
There's no
both?
rebar in the wall.
Or
That
the
wall
cap.
is,
Or the cap.
I haven't dated the wall yet, but I would think it's, 70 something plus years old.
But you're looking with that, the buckling's the cap,
Yeah, well,
right? I mean, that's how I would describe that. It's a cap,
you can
and that
see-
has no rebar?
Yeah, there's no rebar
Okay.
in the whole wall, from what I see. Okay. And then, I was going to further describe. So you can see the erosion, and it's worse than that right now. This was a picture when I actually could get down there when there was a lower tide. And it just comes from us, the loss of sand. If we didn't lose the sand, we wouldn't be having this problem.
Right.
Okay, so what we're proposing, I had been talking to 2 contractors already. I've been talking to Connolly Pacific and I've been talking to Eagle Lift, okay? And so Connolly Pacific is very skilled in this type of work, and, you know, they additionally have a supply of rock with a quarry on the island. Eagle Lift is a contractor that I've been consulting with for about 6 months. They've been successful with foam injection technology in doing, you know, and I have used this technology about 20 years ago and was very successful in jacking up slabs with it. But now they've moved that to even doing C-roll repairs. And so their latest project they had just done in the Port of Los Angeles in September, they just finished that up, and you'll see from some slides here some of that project. So what they do is they inject foam in the sand, so the sand or whatever aggregate's there, and it makes it dense, okay, so like concrete. And they can go down to depths of 45 feet with this. And so essentially what they do is they step back behind the seawall, inject this every 5 feet, and then that makes like another curtain, another seawall, a cutoff wall, and it is below the tide line by 5 to 7 feet. It could be 45 feet below the tide line if we wanted that, but that's just how much you want to pay for that. Then they'll come back and do a second set. So I'll show you some pictures here. They received accommodation for their work in the Port of Los Angeles. And I'll have this up on the website so we can further read, but I just wanted to show you that we had investigated this firm that we're suggesting. This is that project they did in the Port of Los Angeles. They drill down and put a 1/2-inch probe that injects the foam. This is some of the equipment, some of the workers there. Further here. So you can see right in the middle there where they've got a graphic displaying the soil layer, the original compaction. And then where it's the unconsolidated soils and they have voids. And then they inject, the injection rods go down. And in our case, they'd be right at, you know, probably a foot from the seawall and about maybe 5 or 8 foot back. And then they inject the foam in the voids. And then that makes it, you know, a dense cutoff wall. And one thing that this product is not hydrosensitive, so you'll see from other slides here, like this project coming up. I don't know if Jordan got the pictures. I'm sorry that I didn't get that picture in there. But it's not hydrosensitive, so it works instantly even when water's around. And it is not, it's inert. It's environmentally inert, so it can go into the water and it doesn't have an environmental issue. If it's in the water, they'll put booms around there, and so if it's coming out from under the footing, they can capture that and they can just collect that up. It's not a toxic issue to the environment. So that's why they can do these seawall projects. They can go down there, it's in the worst of conditions, it's wet, it's ugly, they can go down there, inject this, and get everything stable instantly. And then they also have the ability with the pressure to lift objects like the seawall itself. I don't know if we'll be successful in lifting all of that seawall back, but we'll be at least able to stabilize the beach. We're bringing enough material over here to do all of South Beach and do all of Step Beach, if you feel like you want to go to that extent. But the initial proposal you see here was I got a price to do the repair, okay? But we're bringing enough material to do that. Okay, so this is the proposal that they gave us for the repair. It was $48,500, and then there's some additional money that would be for the product itself beyond that repair, because like you see that TBD in there, to be determined. So they, you know, we said, hey, it's approximately this dimension. That 48.5 was what those dimensions I gave them. So we brought some more. So that's why we had a unit price there. So we got to always increase that. But then as we saw this further failure happening, because I got that bid here on this quote this last Saturday, and it was when I got back to the island here on Monday that this other failure happened. I said, hey, we got to do something more significant here. So what we're asking is that we could be just south of $200,000 to be able to do both beaches. And what we're proposing that this would be at least as far as the erosion or the sinkhole, this would be the final fix on that. You wouldn't see these sinkholes keep occurring. because what we're proposing and doing is going down approximately 7 foot below the footing. So you won't see this being able to be eroded anymore. And that's what you're seeing, is that because of the high tides and having nothing there to contain, it gets into a liquid state, the sand, it just vacuums out of there. Okay? So what we're asking today is for not to exceed $200,000. We're asking to dispense with bids to go with Eagle Lift. We'll be asking for that for the Harbor Reserve funds.
Bob, what about the seawall, and what about the possibility of putting A-rock in front of that seawall?
Yes, we plan on, after we get this stabilization done, to put the A-rock.
Okay, but that's not part of what you're asking for today?
Well, I would hope that we could include that, but there may be something that I need to come back even on the next council meeting and say, hey, we've got the stabilization done. But even if we put the A-rock in there, and that they have a situation called it's a falling curtain, and they put the rock in there and you just let it keep on slumping down until it settles in. But you're going to possibly lose a lot of material while you're waiting for that to happen too. In addition, that whole thing, working with Conley to get out there is nowhere to get out there right now because the whole area has failed.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so you imagine putting heavy equipment trying to drop rock. I need to get this stabilized, get the whole upper beach stabilized. If I can get that stabilized and where it doesn't have the sinkhole problem, then I can go out there and address what we need to do with the seawall so that if we do get some more surges that we're not getting, so that can dissipate that energy where that seawall's failed. Then we're gonna have to come back and we're gonna have to make a repair on that seawall for those failed areas. But it's no time of the year to go out there and try to repair a seawall. It's really just to stabilize. We're talking to stabilize, but while we're stabilizing, we're trying to go and make sure that this is the fix so we don't get these sinkholes anymore.
And the up to, sorry, one more question. And the up to 200,000 includes Step Beach? So it's South Beach and Step Beach?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I see the big hole. So you fill in that hole and the whole 100 feet, I mean, you're filling the hole
We'll
with
also
the
have,
stuff?
yes, we'll also have some material that is like quarry run or sand that we actually put in the hole, so we're not expending just all the money on the foam because the foam's expensive. And so we do that, but what the foam does is it actually binds that material. Just like you have concrete, you have a binder, you know, so that's...
Does it go further in towards the serpentine wall as well? It goes sideways as well?
No, we don't need to have it going to the serpentine wall. We're going to have
Not that far, but
injection. Let me show you a picture. So in that, right next to the seawall, there'll be, see that tubes, those red lines?
Right.
Okay, so we'll do an injection right, you know, in approximately the area of the seawall. And then we'll come back, 5 to 7 feet and do another injection so that we have that redundancy, that we actually have an area that has significant foam in it and it's bound that material together. And that'll go down 7 feet below the footing. Okay, so now you imagine even if we get more wave action, it's going to be hitting this hard material underneath and not be able to vacuum it out.
So with that being said, is 7 feet deep enough? Or what kind of material do we have? Do we have sand or do we have A-rock? Do we got
We have all kind. It's not homogeneous at all. Yeah, it's with all the different repairs. There, it's all different type, but you can see that they can drill holes through whatever we need to get the inject. And this foam seeks the voids where
it sounds like 7 feet is not very deep. I mean, I would think you would.
Yeah, I want to be.
And I don't know. This is probably your.
Yeah, well, we want to be safe, but we don't want to overdo it because we do have groundwater flow that we want to make sure that finds its way here. So we just can't say, oh, we're going to be so sure and let's go down 20 feet, plus the cost goes up. But we want to make sure that we want to be at that level. If it's 5 feet, add another 2-3 feet. And we'll come on what that exact measurement is. I'll get some more consultation before we go and actually do the work here to make sure that we're getting at the right level, with talking with the marine contractors and other engineering so that at least I'm getting the right information and we're approaching it the right way.
And how soon can they be here?
So they're scheduled to be here Saturday.
Okay. And how long does the project take, do you think?
I would hope that we'd be done this weekend.
Oh, is it pretty quick?
Yeah, and that's, so the one thing about Eagle Lift is versus if I brought Conley in here, it would be like a minefield. There would be equipment and materials. They're going to come in and you're going to see some material and some equipment as we're filling in that hole. And then they just come in with basically 2 trucks and they just start injecting. And then they're out of here. And then we're not disrupting the $30,000 of sand that we put on top for the most part. Well, all the other improvements, all the other utilities, this leaves all that in place. And
So it's safe for them to put those vehicles on the beach, right?
Yes, well, we won't be in the area, we won't be in that area where the sink is. We'll be, just south of that.
Yeah.
Have you been able to talk to the Coastal Commission?
I have not talked to Coastal Commission yet. I will finish that discussion today. And I can have that by a phone call.
Just real quick, because we've got some interesting people in the audience. Does anybody want to make a comment?
Yeah.
Yes, come on up, Pastor. And then when you think we need to go into the other room, Denise, let me know.
Pastor Lopez, 341 Descanso Avenue. Bob, you did touch on the aquifer, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because if we do have to go deeper, and then that aquifer gets retained during heavy rainy seasons, the aquifer shifts around under the canyon, and it can come out at Step Beach, and the next thing you know, it'll be leaving at South Beach. And what I've seen over the years is different homes around town. Some have basements, and they have to have sumps in the basement and pump the water out. And it can happen over on this side of town, and then the next 2 or 3 years later, it's happening over on the Sumner side of town, or eucalyptus. So I want to make sure we're not in danger of being liable for someone's property, because we had a property at the top of Catalina Street that actually started shifting, its foundation was shifting, and they tried to come after us saying that it was because of a broken water line under the street. So we had to do big excavation and everything to disprove the allegations of a leak. So I'm just saying that aquifer can get pretty robust at times if we get rain.
When we get rain.
When?
Okay.
And we do have the study that, when we looked at the groundwater, and we have that study in front of us, and we're trying to make sure that we're not blocking it. That's why we're trying to pick the right depth. The straightforward repair, if I wasn't using Eagle Lift, we'd be putting sheet pile in here. Something in there, so it'd be the same situation as that we're trying to put a curtain down there to block that flow of material. Or, if back, 70, 80 years ago when they built this wall, they would have put a foundation, they would have driven some type of pile or something to make it so this flow of this material. The most important need we have is to put sand back on the beach, and then this erosion won't be happening, but that's not now. And so what do we do to stabilize? That's why we're suggesting this.
Other comments or questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Charlie Canby?
I'm Charlie Canby, 242 Whitley. Well, I hope it works. Sounds like if we don't stop the erosion, we could end up with a huge hole in the beach and have a fantastic expense of filling in the hole and getting new sand. Maybe that would cost $30,000. So in the end, this project cost $170,000 instead of $200,000.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, that was a nice way to look at it. Thank you. Come on up.
Greg Harris, staying at 237 Whitley. The failure of the seawall is basically a product of the current developed at the mall from the Overtown, the Cali Express backing down, which they've normally done it for 20, 30 years. And this whole process has taken 20 years, at least 25 years, sand, grain by grain, to slowly push it over towards a pleasure pier. Well, I hope we don't lose sight of what really is the cause of this thing. Now, as far as the docking of the Cali Express, there's a lot of different ways to secure the mole out there that floats out there. You could drive dolphin pile out there and secure you could drive a set of different dolphins out there to secure your floats out there. So when the Catalina Express comes in, they don't have to back down.
Right.
They could be secure on the dock. There's ways there's a problem and there's a solution out there. And I hope you don't lose, the sight that this whole thing started just with a simple little current. But the current over 20 years, we're looking at the effects of it right now. So there is a way to curb that current and stop the current. And then if you want to bring the sand back, the sand that's out there underneath Jay's moorings right now, the water is about 10 feet, it's about 4 foot higher than it normally was.
Right.
So you could get a drag line out there and you could pull that sand back on the beach. If you stop the current, you could pull that sand back on the beach and then you can start to see it heal.
Right.
But you got to start somewhere.
Greg, I don't want to interrupt on it. You're on to something that's why we have the sediment study, and the sediment study is on our website, and it talks about doing that. That's some of the options, correct, Bob?
Right.
So that is our next step with funding, but you're right to stop
I just
that.
hate to see the city spend a lot of money, for something that's going to, they say it's temporary, but it won't be temporary. You got to, find the solution to the problem,
Right.
the root cause.
Yes.
Anyway, I just hope you don't lose sight of that.
No, we're on that.
All right.
And if
I just had to say
Bob,
something.
no, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pastor Lopez, 341 Descanso. I agree with Greg. We are seeing a result of many years of what's going on with the mole and the express
Right.
engines. But I think Jay, Charlie, Rich, some of us might remember 20 years ago or more, thousands of cubic yards were removed from the lower beach at extreme low tides. This went on for several days, and the spoils were dumped out at the boatyard and out at Descanso Beach. I'm talking thousands of cubic yards were removed from the lower beach. And then what happened was Mother Nature reached up to the seawall and pulled all that sand back down to alleviate the new dip that was created. And that really, really put the nail in the coffin. And what we learned then was you can't really mess with the dynamics of the bay. You got to really be careful of what you do, because then something else happens right behind it. Mm-hmm. And so this was all of it. I agree. The mole, all that stuff, and the removal of the sand was all done by man.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can fix it.
Hopefully we won't do that again. Any other comments before we continue? Go
Okay,
ahead.
so what we're doing, it's not temporary. We're thinking that this is the fix for the sinkholes. It is a stepwise process. We are working on all the projects that people that had comments. I would hope even with the sediment study that I will bring those proposals that we had put for the RFP to see 2 proposals come to you here very quickly so that we can get some of that engineering done, which will help us be more successful when it comes to February for our grant application to go into boating and waterway, that we actually would have some engineering and some environmental work done, so it makes a stronger grant application. We're doing all of those things at once with you. This is really just a stabilization so we don't get further damage. Okay?
Totally understand.
Okay.
And last question, Bob. I understand that most of the intrusion is under the footing, but it seems like there's some cracking and other kinds of damage to the wall itself.
Yes.
How do you, just visual, you use the same injection to fill those voids?
No, so the actual concrete wall itself is going to have to be repaired, so sometime after the winter. We're going to have to get some plans done so that we can go and do a repair, and that may be, I'm seeing maybe about 50 feet of wall. I mean, some of it's still in fairly good shape, even in that 100 feet I'm talking about. But where it's cracked, doesn't have that rebar, we need to get in there and do that. But this is not the time of year, like I said.
Right.
It's really to get it stabilized and go through the winter.
And that's an extra cost on top of
That's an extra cost on top of this. And hopefully that's an extra.
I get it. I mean,
Right now, I'm trying to look at the stabilization and get us secure for the winter.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council.
I'll make a motion to approve emergency repairs of the South Beach seawall for a not-to-exceed amount of $200,000. And this is from the Harbor Fund?
And, yes, and let's
Harbor
make
Reserve.
sure that we're dispensing with bidding on this, because this is an emergency action. Even though I've talked to these contractors, it wasn't a competitive bid, okay? So we're able to do that with our code, if we make a 4/5, okay?
I'll second.
Okay, call for the vote.
All eyes, one abstention, Olson.
Okay, if there's no further business, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, council.